So we're going to have Ms. Carly Oishi from Ladder Up talk to us about financial aid and the resources that are available. Carly?
Good evening. Do I need to share my screen? Yeah. Okay. Okay, whoops. My name is Carly Oishi. I work at Ladder Up. I'm the Director of Financial Capability. Just a little bit about us. We're primarily known for our tax assistance program. We receive funding from the IRS, the City of Chicago, to help Chicagoland residents complete their taxes for free. We're still kind of working out how we're going to be delivering services, but we are going to be doing taxes this year. I oversee the financial literacy and financial aid programs. We do everything from helping folks with their credit scores, budgeting, savings, banking, understanding tax returns. And then our financial aid program helps with completing the FAFSA, going over award letters, explaining student loans, and basic college budgeting. So today I'm going to be specifically talking about the FAFSA, which I know all of you have finished. But there are some requirements around eligibility that I do want to talk about a little bit. So obviously, if you've completed the process, then you know that you had to have your social security number, that you are a citizen or an eligible non-citizen. What's important is that they are going to confirm that you finished high school. So you complete this application at the beginning of your senior year, but they are going to confirm that you either end up with a diploma, a GED, or a high school equivalency. They're also going to confirm that you are pursuing some kind of certificate or a degree, so you can't just take a class and get financial aid. And then this is a really important thing that I think a lot of people don't know about. So while the FAFSA is never going to ask about your academic ability, your grades, your class rank, your test scores, once you get to college, they are going to start tracking your attendance and your GPA. This is called Satisfactory Academic Progress, or SAP. Every school has their own standard. It's typically a 2.0 GPA and an attendance rate of 67% or more. They just want to see that you are progressing from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year and within a year or a year and a half, and that you're not lingering in 1 year and keep getting financial aid for that. And then you already know about selective service because you've completed it. So the component that I want to talk about on this slide is just that you do unfortunately have to do the FAFSA every year. And that means that the information can change from year to year. So the better financially your family does, you might end up getting a little bit less financial aid. And conversely, if you have some kind of financial hardship 1 year, you may be eligible for more. So this is important to know that whatever award letters you're going to be receiving late winter, early spring, it's only good for your freshman year. And then you're going to go through this process all over again. October 1st. So if you answered any questions on the FAFSA that would make you an independent student because you had a special circumstance, this is called a professional judgment in the financial aid world. So you're applying to the schools, you're getting accepted, you start getting some award letters. And what you're going to have to do, though, is be in contact with the financial aid offices because they're going to need some documentation to show that this is indeed your situation. So you need to be aware that there's going to be a separate process and just start looking out for some of that messaging from the schools. They do want to support you. They do want you to be able to apply as an independent sometimes, but they really just need certain paperwork from you. So just start looking out for that. If you've answered any questions about being in foster care, an orphan, a ward of the court, in a legal guardianship, then you are considered an independent student and we'll go through that process a little bit differently. If you were not able to complete the FAFSA, there are more scholarship opportunities out there for you. ISAC, I'm sure, is going to go over their new RISE Act and their alternative application, which I think is just amazing and an incredible thing that they're doing. But some advice that I usually give is you're not going to complete a FAFSA. You are going to go through a different process with the individual colleges. They may have just a general application for you, or they may have specific scholarships, and that could be more than one. So it's important to, again, be in contact with the financial aid offices at those schools. Also, different states approach undocumented students differently. So in Illinois, an undocumented student is considered an in-state resident. Now that might seem logical. If you live in the state, you should be considered in-state, but some schools and states will consider you an international student, and they charge international students 3 to 4 times more in tuition. So you kind of want to look out for that, especially if you're thinking about going out of state. Remember, the status of your parents is unimportant. They do not have to have Social Security numbers in order for you to be eligible for aid. And hopefully that will just continue on throughout the 4 years that you're at school. A document that a lot of schools are asking for, in addition to the FAFSA, is called a tax transcript. Now, this is something you can get on the IRS website for free. I highly recommend getting this document now, because once the 2020 tax season starts, the IRS is going to be a lot less responsive to requests for this document. You do not want this document holding you up from making a decision or getting your financial aid award letter. I can, of course, provide more assistance and information on how to get this document, but please just be aware of it. It's called an IRS tax transcript. And again, it's a free document, which is just a detailed summary of your tax return from 2019. So what does the FAFSA calculate? Hopefully you've had the opportunity to review your student aid report and looked at your expected family contribution, or EFC. This number determines all need-based aid. The federal government uses a calculation, the state uses a calculation, and your colleges also use a calculation. So it's a very important number, and the lower that number is, the more you are eligible for an aid. So if you have a 0 EFC, technically you're eligible for the maximum amount. Now, how do they come up with that? I could show you the formula, but you would be bored to death. I just want to say that, all of the information that you put in here plays a role in your EFC. So whether that is income or assets, how many people are in your household, how many people are going to be in college next fall, that all influences that number. And there's not much you can do to change that unless you've had a big financial difference between 2019 and this year, which may apply to many of you considering our current circumstances. So if you feel that your 2020 finances are very different than your 2019 tax returns, you can appeal your financial aid. The financial aid office is going to ask you some questions. What they're trying to do is figure out, is the difference big enough to make you eligible for aid? And if they can determine that by just answering some questions over the phone, they'll let you know what documentation they need, and then they will go into your FAFSA to make those changes, lowering your EFC and making you eligible for additional aid. So again, that is called an appeal. So financial aid typically comes from 4 different sources: the federal government, the state if you're going to school in Illinois, the college itself, and all those outside scholarships that Michelle was talking about. That is how they come up with your whole financial aid package. And this is either going to be money that's given to you that you don't have to pay back as a gift, or it will be in the form of self-help, which is like a work-study position or borrowing a loan that you're going to have to pay back. These are the grant amounts for this year. So if you had a 0 EFC this year, then you would receive $6,345 in the Pell Grant. That's for 1 year, and you do not have to pay it back. The FSCOD grant is another need-based grant that's typically only given to students with an EFC of 0. The colleges determine who gets it and how much. So that can range anywhere between $104,000. It tends to be a smaller amount because they try to spread it out to as many students as possible. And then the MAP grant, which is given out by ISAC, that is only for Illinois students. Right now, that amount was $5,430. I hope I'm right about that. And again, they are moving towards a priority deadline for returning students. So new students, there isn't technically a deadline. Now, this money does run out, but if you would like to continue getting it starting next year, you'll have to finish your FAFSA by December 1st to be considered priority. And then I just want to touch on the loans really quickly. So freshmen are eligible to borrow up to $5,500. Now, the interest-free loan is a need-based loan. Not everyone qualifies for a need-based loan. The unsubsidized loan does accrue interest. Currently, that's 4.53%, and that starts the minute the money is dispersed. Parents also have the opportunity to borrow a federal loan for their student if they want. However, there are different requirements. So you do have to complete the FAFSA, but you have to go through a credit check. The interest rate is higher, and you have to start making payments towards that loan as soon as the student starts school. There's no grace period. So this is something you may want to talk about if you are considering borrowing, what the terms are for that Parent Plus loan. Okay, 2 more slides. I just want to encourage everyone to be doing some research on how much the college costs that you really want to go to. We don't want to run into these situations where it's spring and we're really excited, we got accepted, and then we find out that it is way too expensive for us. It's good to know the numbers up front. Every college is required to have a net price calculator so that you can determine how much it costs. There's some transparency there. Of course, research, apply for scholarships, ask for assistance. We always look to ISAC, who's going to be up next, as an excellent resource. They just have so many helpful people there, and it's all free. Obviously, the Department of Education, and then we are also a free organization. So if you have questions, you are more than welcome to call our hotline or use our email address. That is it for me.